I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one. Good for grounding. I'm recording already.
Perfect. We entered the time portal, baby, where time is illusory, it doesn't exist.
Welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen within your relationships, your work, and most importantly, with the relationship with yourself. In this podcast, we talk about all things self-love, relationships, sexuality, spirituality, and more. Hi, I'm your host, Celia Antonio, and I'm a women's sexuality and self-love coach, a mindfulness expert, and your cheerleader for your most grounded and expansive self-expression. You can connect with me on Instagram at self-expressedbabe, and for all of my guest episodes, there will always be links in the show notes so that you can find them online. I give my deepest thanks to you for being here and spending your precious time with me today. Now let's begin our journey. I kind of wish we were recording from the very beginning so we could get that organic, like, hi, how are you? But I'm very excited that you're here.
Yay! Hi, Celia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going through my first 24-hour fast at the moment. So my lemon water next to me is like, I'm drinking it slowly and it's like giving me life right now. I'm very much looking forward to dinner tonight.
I bet.
How are you?
I'm so good. It's really a pleasure and honor to be on here with you. I just love your light and all that you do in the world. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. So for everyone listening, welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen. And today's guest is Samara Lane. And I'm just going to read off her little introduction. Hi. Samara Lane is an anxiety transcendence coach, and she specializes in relationships, business, and workplace anxiety. We're going to talk about relationship anxiety today. I'm very excited that you're bringing this in, specifically because something that's been on my mind, and I think I shared this with you in our initial call, was how business is very much relationships. It's all about relating. And I feel like that is overlooked a lot in, I've taken a lot of business courses. Not one of them have told me anything about looking at my relationship dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I have so many thoughts. So, 100%, I think you nailed it there. I mean, anyone who does leadership coaching or executive coaching like myself, anyone who has ever run a business like you or, right? Business is relationships. Really, everything we do in this earthly realm is relationships.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, that's also true.
It's everything, right? We don't have success in our business or passion without nurturing genuine relationships with others, and that's the funnest part. And we don't have like a healthy workplace culture or productive work environment without healthy, safe relationships. And I think you were kind of maybe hinting at this a little bit, is like our relationships, even personally, can have an effect in our business world, right? There's a little story I'll share today about that kind of ties into that too. My journey with relationship anxiety and all the things it's taught me and how my life has changed through healing that, and some fun twists along the way. But if we are first and foremost, looking at our relationship with ourself, right? Then everything else is just going to be a reflection of that. So it really starts from within.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That inner world has such a huge effect because it's that filter that we're receiving everything from the outer world from.
Exactly.
Yeah. It can make such a huge difference. So, what is relationship anxiety? What do you define it as?
What is relationship anxiety? I could say relationship anxiety is a mental health disorder, but I don't like the word disorder. I won't say I don't believe in it. I think that labels can be incredibly helpful, to name and acknowledge and create a context for something that we're going through, because we all go through things. And at the same time, I believe that relationship anxiety is really like a messenger. I'm not the first person to say that, but it is really like it's something that's showing us within ourselves something that needs to be healed or looked at in some way. And so how it shows up is really the easiest way to describe it. Relationship anxiety shows up as intrusive or distressing or unwanted thoughts that are really preoccupied about our relationship or our partner. And along with often like some like kind of coping strategies. We'll call them coping strategies. The real word is compulsions, but again, there can kind of be some shame around those words. Like, I'm not compulsive. It's like, no, these are coping strategies to help us work through the anxiety. How do I mitigate and resolve this feeling of like distress that I have when I have these kind of thoughts or fears or worries come up? So for example, like it's kind of a double-edged sword, or a two-sided coin is how I talk about relationship anxiety. One side is the I'm not enough side of the coin, which can look like, oh, my partner hasn't texted me back and this is taking longer than usual. Oh my gosh, are they going to leave me? Are my fears true? Are they going to cheat on me? So a fear of the I'm not enough. Then there's the other side of the relationship anxiety coin. This is also known as relationship OCD, where it's centered around, is my relationship not enough? Are my choices not enough? So that might look more like a preoccupation with thoughts around, am I settling? Maybe my partner's great in these ways, but these boxes aren't checked. So is this not the right person? Am I really in love with them enough? Am I attracted to them enough? Sometimes I'm attracted to other people. Sometimes I don't feel any love at all. And it feels like I'm lying when I say I love you. So there can be a lot of different manifestations of this. It really focuses on the minutia of how we're feeling, the thoughts and sensations that are coming in, the minutia of the relationship, whereas a true red flag would be something more like abuse, right? Emotional, mental, physical abuse, or untreated addiction, or, repeated lying or dishonesty or unfaithfulness. Like that's its own legitimate issue, but relationship anxiety tends to focus more on those deep-seated fears.
Yeah. I think everything that you're naming, I feel like I'm kind of realizing that this is very common.
Yes.
And I wonder if you have any thoughts about why.
Ooh, such a good question. Well, it's common because, and I love that you say that, because so many people have never heard the term relationship anxiety or relationship OCD. So in that sense, it's getting more known about, but there are so many like trained, amazing licensed therapists out there that were never trained or taught anything about this. So it still needs a lot of awareness, but you're right. It's common. It's just not necessarily something people are broadcasting because it's so personal. And when you share these kinds of fears, then you're getting everyone else's input, which might be more triggering. Oh yeah, you should definitely just leave them. It's like, oh, what if I don't want to? That's scary. No, you're missing the point. And so why it's common is because the root issues, the root causes or catalysts that result in relationship anxiety are very much just a part of the human experience. It can really happen to anyone. The three big ones are a general sense of lack of self-trust, like a general lack of trusting your choices or your decisions or second guessing yourself. It can afflict a lot of recovering perfectionists, people who tend to be hard on themselves. That has certainly been me. Just general lack of self-esteem or self-trust is a big one, right? And so how that can often manifest is, even if you're generally a happy person, if there's things within yourself or your life that maybe you're not fully happy or accepting, then that can get unconsciously projected onto your partner or onto your relationship. You wake up feeling unhappy. You look at your partner laying next to you. Maybe it's them. Maybe it's that thing they did the other day that irritated you, or, this thing that isn't living up to our idealistic expectations. Not that our concerns when we genuinely have relationship challenges aren't valid. We want to honor our feelings and experience, but it can get projected onto the relationship. And we want to come back to, what's really going on within me, right? Where am I unhappy, instead of just immediately assuming, oh, it must be the relationship. A couple other big ones are trauma. Who hasn't experienced trauma? All of us do. Not all trauma has a capital T. A lot of it is like lowercase t, or things that we may not even fully acknowledge are still kind of under the surface, even if we've done a lot of healing, even if we are a healer. We've all been through stuff, and it can get triggered or re-triggered. That could be, for some of my clients, I've seen folks, they went through a bad breakup, or they were with a narcissistic partner at one point in the past, or they witnessed one of their parents cheating on the other parent growing up, and that was really scary. Or it could, there can be insecure attachment styles that are affecting this, right? Avoidant or anxious attachment, or some combination. There could even be trauma that may not necessarily be relational trauma, but if it left us with a feeling of I'm not safe in some way, then where do we look for safety the most? Than in our most intimate relationship with a partner. And so old wounds can get triggered. Yeah.
I love that you brought that in about lowercase t trauma, because something that I like to kind of share is that sometimes we go through something when we're kids, or, like toddlers, or however young we are, when we don't fully understand our experience yet. So something as simple as our mom not coming to our soccer game because she had to work late so that she can afford our soccer uniform and whatever fees go into soccer. Like, as a kid, when you don't understand that, you think, mom's not at my game, she must not love me. Exactly. When really that's not what happened.
Right.
But your feelings are also valid.
Yes, exactly.
So it's tricky.
The emotions, it's tricky. The emotions are valid. Your experience around it is valid. We want to accept and honor and process those emotions. It's actually the fact that we usually don't learn how to accept and honor and process our emotions. It's really easy to not learn that. I mean, even as adults, it's so easy to not model that for our kids now. Speaking hand raised, I'm a mom. Sometimes I'm like, I really I could share with my kid more of my process right now because I'm feeling some big emotions. We're just not conditioned to do that. And our story and the story around it isn't necessarily true, right?
Yeah.
So, right. And everyone's doing their best. So you're right. Yeah. Lowercase trauma or lowercase t trauma. I mean, it happens to everyone. And we've been walking around with some limiting beliefs about ourselves or the world or other people that are asking us to reframe and upgrade them. Yeah.
I think also an important part you shared was about like having low self-esteem, and what was it? You said lack of trust in yourself and perfectionism. Yeah. And I've found that that's very common for those of us who grow up that are socialized as women. Because we're told a lot that, someone else outside of us has the answers. And so we're kind of like primed to have this low sense of self-esteem and primed to be perfectionists. And I'd love to know kind of your experience with that and how you've kind of like navigated that, or maybe how you navigate it with your clients.
Yeah, specifically the conditioned or feeling like the low self-trust, low self-esteem piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And I didn't tell you the third one yet. I'll mention that too.
Oh, yay.
The third contributor. So before I forget, the third contributor or catalyst to relationship anxiety is life transitions. So maybe it's you've always felt pretty good about your relationship, but now you're moving in together or getting engaged and you're like, right?
Yeah.
It could be something completely unrelated to your relationship. It could be, I mean, for some people, it's becoming a parent. Having a kid can exacerbate it. For some people, it's like they graduated college or they're changing schools or they're moving or their career has some uncertainty going on. It could be the loss of a loved one. Anything, any kind of life transition. Again, these could even be micro transitions, right? People with general anxiety will notice often it's the micro transitions when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed, when I end the week and it's Sunday night and it's almost the work week. Like these are there can be macro and micro transitions that exacerbate anxiety, but transitions in life are like these limbo times where uncertainty is at an all-time high. We're not really where we were and we're not really where we're going. And so that feels freaking terrifying to our nervous system.
Yeah.
And it will grasp for some kind of certainty or control because it wants to feel safe. And that can be projected unconsciously onto our relationship. Well, maybe if this was better or different, or I felt safer in some way, then I could relax. Then I would feel safe. It's not conscious. We don't mean to, but it's really common.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to gloss over that, but to answer your wonderful question around self-trust and self-esteem, and how I kind of have seen that in myself or other people I've worked with. I love that you mentioned that it's, can be especially true for people who were socialized as women. I think too, like all marginalized communities, right? It may experience this more than others. And so,
yeah, basically anyone who's not like a white man.
Exactly.
Not to hate on white men, but
yeah,
this is how our society is currently.
There are different levels of privilege. And so, a white cis woman will experience privilege differently than a queer woman of color, right? So for myself, absolutely, that was my experience growing up. And it's partly a little bit maybe my disposition, but because I just can be, I'm a gentle, sensitive soul. Really. I also feel very connected to my personal power at this time in my life and my journey, but I'm also a gentle, sensitive soul and an empath. And, I remember when I went into grade school, that was a huge, huge shock to my system, where I feel like a lot of that social conditioning happened. And I felt like, be quiet, be good, be accepted. It caused a lot of social anxiety, I think. And this isn't just women. Anyone can be an empath, but I think sensitive souls and empaths especially, we can pick up on other people's energy and their stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And we think it's ours because we're 6. We're like, why do I feel so overwhelmed or awkward right now? Yeah. So and then society reinforces that, right? Be quiet, be meek, don't speak out, don't be too much, and just be a good little girl and do your work and don't ruffle feathers. So
all that work can also be a lot on the nervous system because the way that a teaching curriculum is presented to students, at least in regular public school, it's not necessarily adjusted, customized for each student, So exactly. I'm sure that can add an extra layer of anxiety.
Exactly. Right. Just the stress. I would love, this is not a topic for today, perhaps, but I would love for school systems and I see a lot of changes being adopted in them. I'm very grateful for that. To be a place that is emotionally supportive instead of, it's just socially accepted that school is hard on your mental health or that college, you'll just be anxious for 4 years. It's not cool.
Yeah. I share that desire with you as someone who is not a mom yet, but hopes to be within the next 2 years. And I also have a friend who's in medical school, and just the course load that they have to do to then be health providers, it's just wild. It seems out of
backwards.
integrity to me.
It does. It super does. I agree. And so I'm grateful the world is changing a lot, but I like that you brought that up about women, or people who are socialized as women or women identifiers, because overwhelmingly the relationship anxiety community, people will talk about it sometimes like it is so predominantly female, the people who are seeking support for relationship anxiety. There are absolutely men and non-binary and every type of human can have relationship anxiety. And I have some of my clients have been men for sure. So it's not black and white. However, it's interesting. We could do a whole episode just talking about why that could be, right? There's also, I watched my little girl she's 5. She asked to watch Snow White because we're on Disney Plus picking out some little family movie to watch this week. And she asked to watch Snow White. And damn, if that movie doesn't reinforce so many, to me, unacceptable, outdated gender stereotypes. And it's like, my kid is being fed from the youngest age, and so was I.
Yeah.
That like, this is your
those
identity.
Movies hit differently now.
They hit different. They didn't age well.
Yeah. Even like newer movies, like from the 80s. I grew up on a lot of 80s movies because my mom had me a little young. And I remember watching 16 Candles. Do you know that one?
I haven't seen
Molly
it in a really long
Ringwald.
time. But yes.
I watched it recently and I'm like, whoa, this movie is like, all these jokes did not age well.
No. 90s movies too. They're
it's crazy how like certain things were okay for a long period of time, and then there was a shift. Wonder what happened.
Yeah. Wonder what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, wonder what that was.
So, but suffice to say, like Hollywood, social media, culture. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people I work with or support in some way in my communities are triggered by the very black and white, all or nothing, not to be taken literally, memes that are out there, right? You know, they're the one if da 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 da. Who says there is a one? Who says there is the one? The one is the person that you happen to be with right now, and forever isn't guaranteed to any of us.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Yeah. So a lot of conditioning and programming kind of contributes to relationship anxiety as well. Which is something we're all exposed to.
Yeah. I still would love to know about the piece of like how you've moved through the self-esteem piece. There's another part that's coming up for me to share, but I'm not sure if that will distract from that. So maybe I'll add that after.
Okay. Yeah. Throw it in whenever it feels aligned.
Okay.
The self-trust piece is arguably the biggest piece of the journey, and it certainly was for me. So I guess my short version, I can certainly share the long version too, but my short version was I honestly didn't even realize that I had anxiety, like general anxiety. I didn't realize that I was highly sensitive. I'd never heard that term. I always had a lot of shame around my sensitivity, and I did not fully get the depths of how little I trusted and accepted myself until relationship anxiety reared its head. And that was it was over 10 years ago. It was in my early 20s. And the big lessons, I guess if I was gonna condense it into like some of my big lessons, the self-trust piece has been about noticing all the ways that I can give my power away to things in my life, right? Like my relationship has to be a certain way, or I have to look a certain way. People have to perceive me a certain way. A lot of breaking those kinds of old paradigms and noticing, really looking at life differently. If I did trust myself, if I fully trusted myself and there was no right or wrong way to do anything, and no one else cared. They were just rallying and fully supporting me no matter what I chose, right? What would I be choosing? What would I be doing? What would I be leaning into right now? That's probably been one of the most important questions I've ever discovered on this journey.
Yeah, that is a powerful question.
Yeah.
To like really get to the meat of what you want, you know,
Exactly.
without all the other filters distracting you.
Exactly.
Because anxiety is very distracting.
Yeah. It's very, very distracting. We're not in our executive functioning part of our brain when we're triggered and when we're anxious, right? We're not really ourselves. We're just operating from that fear. So I'm happy to share. I have like it's been a cool unfolding, my whole journey around this. May I share?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I get some popcorn?
Yeah, get the popcorn. Just gonna sip my water there. So, because I don't know how to actually talk about this without really talking about it. So, and there's a twist to this story as well. So on my relationship anxiety journey, which is really my self-trust journey, right? Mm-hmm. We can just swap those words. I was with my partner, and we had just moved in together. We'd been together a couple years. We were both really enjoying the relationship. It was the best relationship we'd ever had, in our lives. And there were also some challenges that we were working through, but we just moved in together, and my partner, around my birthday, this is 2012.
Okay.
So yeah, over 10 years ago, they surprised me on my birthday and proposed to me out of nowhere.
Oh.
We'd never talked about marriage before. And so even though I was really like genuinely happy and content in my relationship and wanted to be in my relationship and wanted to move toward a future together, that freaked my nervous system out. Understandably.
Yeah.
So in the moment I said yes, but then it ended with us going back to our place, our little condo in Fremont in Seattle, and like crying on the kitchen floor together as I professed all these doubts and fears I had about commitment and our relationship and them, and not something I recommend doing. But what I couldn't shake was like, it felt like there was something else coming up. It didn't feel like this was just about our relationship, even though there were some things that we were working through, and that's okay. That's true for most of us at any given time. It was like, I felt such crippling, debilitating fear and anxiety. Like I was like shaking, and I felt like I couldn't think about anything else or focus at work in the coming days after that. I was like, and so I was like, I don't trust this fear. This doesn't feel clean. There's something else going on here. And so I researched, I Googled, which is what everyone does, because they're like, what's happening to me? Because
and then Google tells you you're dying.
Yeah. Google tells you something catastrophic, and you're like, no, why did I Google?
Yeah. It's always you're dying.
Yeah, definitely. But if we tell our friends or family members that, they're usually going to say, well, if you know, if they're the right person, so definitely just the only answer is break up. That's often the advice people hear, right?
Yeah.
And then that just feeds the fear, and you feel even more confused. So I looked up and I found an amazing woman. I'm just going to call her the pioneer of all of this, Cheryl Paul. She is awesome. She's also an anxiety transcendence coach, among other things. And she was like the only one talking about this back in the day. So now there's more of us, thank goodness. But, I found her and started working through my relationship anxiety and realizing that this even existed. I had no idea, and learning so much about all the ways that, I didn't trust myself, right? Like it's not just one thing, right? I was second guessing myself in my, in the workplace and in my job. I was really hard on myself and like, hustle culture and you got to be tough and really burning myself out there. I've noticed there were patterns of social anxiety. It's like this tendency to worry more about being accepted, right? Or am I, how will other people think of me than who am I? Who am I today? It changes. And how can I just let myself be me? Because anyone that doesn't jive with that wasn't for me anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Life is so precious. Was learning to trust my choices. I realized, I don't really make any choice without asking 17 different people and then, weighing my options. Like even having a kid with that same partner, years later, I hemmed and hawed about, do I really want a kid? So this was a theme, right, in my life around not just trusting where I'm at, needing full certainty of how it will be forever.
Yeah, that's relatable.
The doubt, the second guessing, I think, again, that's ingrained in us. We're taught to listen to authority figures and people outside of ourselves, and developmentally that's appropriate when we're 2 and we're learning to not touch the hot stove and we rely on someone for survival. But for most things, we rarely ask ourselves first. I think that's been an interesting lesson. I'll speak for myself. I used to very rarely ask myself first, well, what do I believe? What do I value around this? What do I need or desire? We're not taught that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not.
So that was big. I ended up working through a lot of the relationship anxiety. I asked for a 2-year-long engagement to help. So I was like,
nice.
We won't put any of this. We won't put our wedding on credit cards. And I can also secretly keep working on my relationship anxiety because I'm terrified of commitment and choosing wrong. There was such a fear of, is this really my forever person? Do I want this forever? Marriage has to last forever. If I ever get divorced, then I suck. I failed. I chose wrong. There's something deeply shameful or wrong about me if this doesn't last forever and work out. Those were a lot of my fears. And again, where did I learn that divorce is bad? That's also something we're not born believing. That's something we're taught.
Yeah.
And, so a lot of fears around like, this is my one shot. I have to choose perfectly, right? That perfectionism creeping in, and I never want to get a divorce. And it's like this belief that you can do your life wrong, that there's a right and wrong way.
Yeah. When there isn't. And also like nobody really knows what they're doing. So we're all just like making a choice and seeing how it goes and like learning from there.
Exactly. No one knows what they're doing. No one, even if they feel a lot of confidence and peace around something, they don't know the future. I believe that we're all psychic. We're all intuitive. We all have like a sixth sense in that way, but like psychics don't know everything. They're not supposed to. None of us are supposed to know how this all ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That would take all the fun out. That would take all the fun out of life. We're just meant to do the best we can. Yeah. Do the best you can with what you know now, because if we knew how it all played out, we would be robbed of that, just the magical unfolding. And sometimes things going differently than we expected is the greatest gift. Yeah. We just had to be courageous enough to take the next step. So, that was a very long, happy, successful marriage that we had. Past tense had. So here's the twist.
I love that you still said successful marriage, even though it ended. Because usually people don't say that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and when I say that, like, we had so many amazing memories together. We traveled, we grew up together. We brought a beautiful, amazing little girl into the world, our daughter. And I learned how to trust myself in that relationship. Like, I'm going to get emotional here. Like, there's no greater gift I could ever be given than that. And my ex is an amazing human, an amazing soul, and one of my greatest teachers in life. And they're not perfect, and neither am I. And and the relationship was never perfect, and it did have ups and downs, as all relationships do, as we journey through. I mean, anyone that you're that close to, there's going to be stuff that happens, and that's how you learn. But the twist is, after becoming a relationship anxiety coach and mentor and expert, and like, that was what my business was built on. And I still do this today. It's still a lot of the work I do is relationship anxiety coaching. And I'm just in love with it because it's really about self-mastery. And your relationship just gets to be the amazing cherry on top. But after doing all of that, the relationship started having some challenges. I won't go into detail because my kid could listen to this someday. I want to respect everyone involved.
Yeah.
Right. But let's just say some choices were made that I was not okay with. And, we worked through them the best that we knew how at the time. And at a certain point, things were still happening and I wasn't willing to work on it anymore. There were some legitimate relationship challenges, that manifested. And then, and so I came to a place where I knew it was time. I knew I was done, and it felt very grounded. It didn't feel like relationship anxiety. I knew the difference, right?
Yeah.
It
That's
felt
a good distinction.
Yeah. And it also wasn't just, I'm having an intrusive thought, or I feel scared about this, so this must be true. I had a thought that feels like clarity that I have to leave, so therefore I have to act on that impulse. It was founded, right? There were some actual issues, and I knew how to distinguish, right?
Yeah.
And so our soul contract ended, and I asked for a divorce. It was not easy. It was incredibly painful. I cried and cried and cried for about a whole month. And second guessed it at times, and still just, it was still just, it was the right choice for me, right? It was the right choice for me at that time. It would not have been the right choice a month earlier, a year earlier. Right. Yeah. It was the right choice then. And there's just no way we know these things until we go through them. So could I have stayed and continued to work on things, and it may or may not have gotten resolved at some point? Of course. We always have that choice, right? So the formula that makes a relationship last is, do we still care about each other, and do we still want to make it work? That's really it. It's not like rocket science, right? Yeah. There's not a magical algorithm that tells us if this is the right relationship. Yeah. We have free will. But after I made that choice and then did the next scary thing, which was come out to my whole audience and community and clients that, hey, I'm a relationship anxiety coach, y'all, and I'm getting a divorce. Trigger warning. Oh, it was so inspiring what I got met with, like the feedback I got, how people received it. Some people were incredibly triggered. And of course that's okay. That's fair that's the response they naturally had. Most people, when they heard more of the backstory and the reason why, they're like, okay, that makes sense. And I don't have to compare my situation to yours because they are different and unique, right? Yeah. Just because divorce or breaking up is right for one person does not mean it is right for another person. And so that's a huge lesson that I saw a lot of people coming back to, which was beautiful. I had a lot of my clients and community say, like, this is really inspiring because I've always thought, if Samara got divorced, how could I cope? You know, right? Like we can put, and again, this is something that we can do, is we can kind of put we can put someone on a pedestal. We're all freaking human. Your therapist is a human. Your coach is a human. We're just people doing our best. I know I have done that as well. But a lot of people said, hey, this is really freeing and liberating, because I realize like life goes on. Like I don't have to be afraid of someday if something changes or my relationship ends. I don't want it to end. I want to be in this relationship, but like, the world doesn't end when something goes differently than you expected. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful story.
Yeah. So now here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. And I haven't shared this with social media yet, but I actually accidentally manifested a new partner a few months ago. And that has been another level that I won't go into too much detail in today for sake of time, but like that has been a whole new layer of my beautiful healing journey, is seeing now how I'm now learning safety in a new environment. This is a new relationship. It's a different kind of relationship dynamic. It's a different person. And now I get to use everything I learned before. But have I had old like anxious attachment stuff kind of rearing its head at certain times? Yep. Did I know how to move through it? Yes. So did it take things over? No. But it's a loving reminder that like there are layers of healing. It's a spiral. It's not a one and done. It's not a straight line. And so if anyone listening has done a lot of inner work and they're like, why do I keep getting triggered about something? I want to here's your permission that you don't really need, but just a loving reminder. It's been a loving reminder for myself that, of just acknowledging how far I've come, all the progress and healing I've made. It's absolutely made this a very different experience in my current relationship, a really positive one. And we're all going to get triggered sometimes. And that's a part of relationships.
Yeah. And when I think when the same trigger comes up, it's because you're ready to deepen whatever healing work you already did. Like you're ready to go deeper. Your nervous system probably has more capacity to try something that probably wouldn't have worked a year ago. And you also, from the work you've done already, you have a different perspective when it comes up. Like you said, do the triggers come up? Yes. Do I know how to deal with them? Yes.
Yeah.
Was that always the case? No.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all part of it. Like you said, like everything is relationships, business is relationships. That's every part of our life. And there is no relationship that will never trigger us. And so learning how to navigate through it, whether it's like minor doubts or triggers that are coming up, or they feel like they're debilitating, we all have them at some point. Yeah. And we can learn to move through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to move into, I have some closing questions that I ask everyone towards the end of our conversation.
Yeah, go for it.
The first question is, what does self-love mean to you?
I love that. Self-love to me means self-acceptance. It means allowing like any thought that your mind automatically has, blessing it. Any emotion or sensation your body is experiencing, blessing it. Forgiving the thoughts, embracing the feelings, not needing to make it mean anything, and just being so gentle and compassionate with ourselves, just like we would a small innocent child, no matter how we're feeling, no matter what's going on. Just blessing our experience, whatever it may be.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
And what makes you feel the most grounded?
Ooh, I love that. First answer, there's many things, but what's coming to me right now is water. I love grounding with water. That could be taking a shower. I have to shower every day. It could be dipping my toes in the lake, or even just like washing your hands, setting an intention of like what you're letting go as you're doing that. I love water. It's really grounding. Baths, of course, salt baths, anything like that.
Oh, I want to take a bath now. What's your favorite part about being human?
Oh my gosh.
I know there's probably a lot.
The first thing that comes to me is like tasting food. Food is so yummy.
Yeah.
But
food is a pretty great experience.
Food is so yummy. Sex is so fun. Fresh air on your face, like the smell of fresh air and walking in the trees, like just getting anything that engages the five senses is my jam. That's my bag. I love it all.
I love that. For me, the common thread in all of those things, food, sex, fresh air, is like pleasure. Feeling pleasure.
Yeah. Big surprise. I like that. It's a fun part of being human.
Yeah, it is. It's super fun. And then kind of similar to that question, but I always love seeing everyone's reaction to this. What is your favorite part about being a woman?
Ooh, oh gosh. There's so many pieces. There's so many things that are my favorite about being a woman. Sensuality, like I just think of like a sacred, like the yoni symbol, the vulva, just the woman, the goddess, and just like the whole presence and energy around that. That energy that we all have for anyone who identifies as a woman. And there's just something really sacred sexuality, sacred sensuality. Again, pleasure. This is like, this is the theme for me right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. And for everyone who has tuned in, where can they find you and connect with you and find out about your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I have tons of tips that I didn't get into today that you can find, and you can learn more about working with me, and lots of free tips as well on my website, samaralane.com. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram. I'd love to connect. I have a free community there as well on Facebook.
Yeah. And all of those will be linked in the show notes or the caption if you're watching on YouTube. Yay! Thank you so much.